Welcome back, and as you may be able to see here, Jeff is doing the prep work for inserting the hard points where the transitions are going to go across the pressure bulkhead for the electrical, and also this one down the bottom for the hydraulics. So that's underway. And these are the brackets that hold the nose gear in place, and you see he's trimmed off the flanges around the edges there and fit those in and just clicker them into place, so that's ready to be bonded in, and then we can actually fit the nose gear leg in there. So back on the machine, just finishing off the 3 different plugs that it started on Friday, and so this is the one that's the bracket or brace that sort of shores up the firewall, and it needed to be extended so the parachute could go through it. And so that one's almost done, and then these 2 are done and need to be sanded. And you see that the edges are a little rough there because in the CAD there they were sharp edges, but you know it's very difficult to do sharp edges with a putty. So here's the gear leg, and both of the gear legs I had to re-drill the hole to put the inlet there for the hydraulics to the brakes on the top, and that actually mates up with the gun drilled hole that's inside the actual leg. And so I also had to drill the holes in that for the bracket, so you see you've got those done, and then that one's been just test fit in there. And this other one had to come off there, and so I could drill the brake line hole in that, but that one came off, and that got done. So the next mold we need to make is for a bracket there that holds the side sticks. So here you can see the side sticks there, and they basically go through the bottom of the dash there. And then there's this bracket that gets bonded to the inside of the fuselage, and that basically holds the stick and allows it to sort of slide through the glide bushings that we're using. And just excuse me here because we've got a couple of different, we've got new CAD and old CAD sort of visible here, so just trying to hide the old CAD. And so you see the new CAD because one of it's conceptual stuff that I did, and the other one is finished stuff that Mark did all the engineering on and the load analysis. So this is basically this bracket here, this grey thing, and obviously you have to create a left and a right for that, and it looks kind of, you know, complicated and stuff, but really if you break it down it's not really more than just a sort of a box. And we decided to put the bonding flanges on the outside instead of on the inside, so you'll see that here shortly how I've gone and converted that. So looking at the part just on its own, and this is the one from the right hand side, so right now we're kind of looking at the front of it. That's basically what it is there, and it's just going to be a whole bunch of plies laid up, so it's going to be 0.18 of an inch thick. So this is kind of what I've turned it into. So we've got the flange around the outside there, and then you know, the rest of the box part, and we'll end up just basically cutting out what we need to cut out once we've actually laid up the part. And so the mold will actually be kind of what we call, or what I like to call, a drape mold, where that's basically the shape you're going to see there, and we'll just drape the carbon fiber over the top, and again bag it sort of so it sucks down over the top, same as how we did the aileron box just recently again, which you know you may recall from a while ago when we actually laid that one up. So anyway, this is the tool path is going to be run over this. I've got a rough cut, which I'll show you in a second, but this is the final cut because there's so many different curves on the flanges there that sort of follow the shape of the fuselage where this is bonding to. It's just easier to ball mill this whole thing. And there's what the rough cut looks like, and that's the one that's just run with the big flat end mill, just to get rid of most of the foam that we don't need before the ball mill starts to run, because you don't want to be running the ball mill through like, you know, 7-8 inches of foam at one hit. It's just going to not be very good. Anyway, so there's the tool path running just to show you what that one looks like. And yeah, nothing really complicated. Obviously have to do a left and a right, and this is the right side one. And so the guys quickly threw together the platforms for this, and you see it just put some steel on the top there to hold the foam down while the glue is drying. And there's the other one already up on the machine, and pretty much just waiting for the glue to dry there so we can fire it off. And this is it underway, already done the rough cut, and there the ball mill, my super long ball mill is on there, which allows me to, you know, go right down on that straight face there without sort of colliding the collet of the machine into it. So anyway, that one's underway, and I'll be doing the other one tomorrow. Okay, back to the CAD and the various systems. I was working on this again over the weekend to try and get most of this stuff dialed in. So I've worked on the venting system for the tank, and obviously when you're drawing fuel out of the tank, you need to allow air to come back in. So we have vents in the top of each of the tanks, the strakes and also the header tank, to allow air to come back in. And kind of what I'm showing you here, that highlighting these different lines. But anyway, I'll go through it here in a second. And there's a bulkhead there that's hidden right now, so it looks like those two connectors are sort of open in midair, but they're actually transitioning through the pressure bulkhead there, and so they do connect. So anyway, how this works is, starting out here, you have the header tank, and there's the line that comes out of that, the vent line that comes out of that, and then that hooks or sort of tees into the left and right tanks, the top of those, to allow air to sort of go back into those tanks so they don't sort of go under vacuum when you're drawing fuel. And then those on the right hand side, it tees there, and then that basically goes up through a loop at the very top of the fuselage in the cabin, just so you don't end up with fuel siphoning overboard. And then from there it comes back down, goes through the pressure bulkhead, and then out through the bottom of the fuselage. So that's basically how that works. And the next thing I finished off was this fuel return for the heating system for the fuel. So here's the heat exchanger, and there you see you've got the return line coming out of that, and also that's teeing in with the return line from the high pressure fuel pump, because you know fuel does return to the tanks from that pump on the Audi engine. And then that line runs back sort of the same way it came, but not through a pump this time, just basically returning, and it returns, and that's not actually the right one that I selected, that's the feed one, but the one to the left of that is the return line, and it goes through that aft bulkhead there, and that's the right one there that I'm selecting. So it goes through there, and that basically runs back up in front of the header tank, and then splits into left and right on a T there, and each of those just feeds up into the straight tanks. So this is how we're warming the fuel. So you see, if we look at the one on the right hand side tank, so that goes up into the top of the tank there, just below where the vent line is that I showed you before. And then there's an extra bit of pipe inside of the tank there, which takes that warm fuel and distributes it in the front section there, front of that baffle. So we're sort of putting warm fuel in the front instead of just putting it right where it's going to be taken back out again. That way we should get a pretty good spread of the heat in the tank. And a couple other things going on here. I actually had to move the landing gear lights again, because the idea of putting them on the left and right, after talking with JD at Infinity, basically said that if I did that and split the power going to the LEDs, we'd end up having each of the LEDs at only half brightness. So anyway, that's why I've put them back down there, and for now that's where they'll be, and they may move again, but anyway, probably okay down there. Anyway, so next thing, I also had to move things around here on this pass-through there to make room for another one of these 28-pin connectors, because I was just running out of different wires that we're going to be transferring across the pressure bulkhead. So, because I've already defined quite a few of the wires that are going to go through this extra connector, even though I haven't put it in the CAD yet. And you might have seen this last time, but I forgot to mention it. I've got the GPS antenna here. It's kind of like floating in mid-air right now, but that's actually going to live just underneath the door for the nose compartment, and we're going to have sort of a fiberglass cover over there just so the signal can get through. And that should be okay, and it's been done like that before, so hopefully it won't cause a problem, and if not, our backup is just to put it on the roof. And basically the line for that just runs through that pressure bulkhead. And you probably noticed here I've done some work around where the landing and taxi lights are. I've been working on creating this bracket, and I've kind of finished up the initial design for it, and I'm just running it by Mark so he can do some FEA on it just to see if it's going to be strong enough to hold the weight of those lights without them vibrating or anything like that. And also you see there's a little tow bar hook on there, or pin on there, and I just quickly mocked up a basic tow bar similar to what Landsair uses on there, and so Mark's going to do the FEA on that as well, just to make sure that it's strong enough for us for all of the towing needs that we'll need for moving the aircraft around. Okay, so on to what you've all been waiting for, is the windshield, and as you can see here, it's not in yet, and there it is sitting on the floor, and it's just been prepped, and Jeff's already put some of the high sol just on the top edge there of the windshield, and here's Devon just mixing up some more high sol. On this one we're using the clear one because this is going on the A-pillars, just with the hope that you'll get to see that carbon fiber look coming through the glass there, the same as what we did on the rear windows. And here you can see, obviously I couldn't film, everybody was helping put it in place, but Jeff's just doing the cleanup there, and we've just got it clamped in place, so it's bonded on the 3 edges right now, and later on when we put the nose on, it'll be bonded on there as well. Yeah, I just wanted to show you here. So there's the hole there for the brake that I drilled and tapped earlier in the leg there. So you can kind of see how you'll be able to get to it there through that bulkhead opening for the pressure bulkhead, and obviously there's one on the other side. And this is what it looks like on the inside right now with the windshield in there, even though it's got some Visqueen sort of taped on the inside. And this is how it looks on the outside. So I'm not sure exactly what the next step is here. It won't be long, and we'll probably be putting the nose on, but we're just sort of considering whether or not we bond that in terms of, because we've still got a few things we want to do in the front of the keel there, and just maybe easier if the nose isn't bonded on. Anyway, so that's another milestone met for this week so far. That's our update, and thanks again for watching.